Why don't you quit lying? Why don't you wake up? And why don't you actually put effort in going after what you want? And that's something that, I would say to myself when I know my edge of discipline is being dulled.
Yeah, I need a bag, bruh. Send it through quickly. I'm making his dog like I'm in the big leagues. Yeah, I told him I'ma hit it out of stance. I deserve another 100 bands.
Welcome to another episode of the Married Game Podcast. We're the voice you trust when it comes to lust, and we are who you hire when she lacks desire. I've got a big announcement. First of all, this is our first solo edition, just me. We're going to be adding a lot of this in because I just like talking about certain things, and I like being able to riff on certain things. I like getting up in the morning, having a gummy or two, and popping over into the man cave and recording my thoughts to you. Sometimes it'll be like it's me talking to myself saying, hey, motherfucker, why don't you quit lying? Why don't you wake up? And why don't you actually put effort in going after what you want? And that's something that, I would say to myself when I know my edge of discipline is being dulled. Or if my vigor for life seems to be draining, there's usually a reason. And I get to explore that. Also, I got a miniature model of the 56 F100 that I'm having custom built right now. Very excited about that. And word on the street should be the nicest truck in America. So we'll see. I know it will have a driver who's got the nicest dog in all the land. So now, big announcement, big alert here for you, and I'm still kind of getting comfortable here with the format of where my elbow go. I'm usually on that side of the table, so I'm kind of skating some new ice here, and I like it. New little patch of territory for my eyeballs to take in. Good. This is good. Now, I got a big fucking huge announcement for you, and the big huge announcement is this. I got the greatest married game testimonial I've ever gotten, and I just watched it this morning, and it put a new fire and vigor inside of me. If any of you guys are doing anything that is in the realm of helping somebody else with something that you've been through, you will appreciate the sentiment that this story comes from. I think if you've ever coached anybody in anything, whether it's little league kids up to grown men trying to get their wives' desire back, the feeling is the same. And you're like, wow, because I decided to speak up and say something, this dude's life is not a little bit changed, not incrementally changed. We are talking such a drastic transformation, such a radical revolution in this dude's relationship that it fires me up to keep talking. It fires me up to keep sharing in the way I share because it resonates with some. I'm also very highly aware, and I'm sure you are as well, that there are certain people that when they talk, they can be a little off-putting to others, yet the same degree that they're off-putting to others is the same degree that those who like them lean in. It's like music. You got that friend that's got that band that they love, and you're like, dude, that music's trash. And they're like, no, it's the greatest music of all time. You're like, said no one ever. And that is somebody's true artistic, natural piece of who they are coming out. It's when you have somebody who will talk into a camera and say, hey, I got something to say, and you all might want to fucking listen because it actually produces amazing results, the results that all of us as dudes want, and that is we want to be wanted. We want to be desired. We want our woman to love us. We want her to flourish in her feminine as we lead and by example and by service through our masculine. That's what every dude wants. I'm not saying anything new. I'm just saying what we've all been saying in our heads, and so therefore it sounds new. But when I say and talk the way I talk, in my voice, my methodologies, my analogies, my whatever, how I see it, and I'm unfiltered in sharing that with you. Like, this is how I see it. This is what I believe about this and this and this. I'm very clear and open with all of you all about what that is. But I understand that also is very off-putting to some people. I get it. I'm not even mad at them. Like, I have friends that talk like this that I don't even watch their stuff, okay? I get it. Sometimes when somebody is in their true, natural, how they're speaking, for some people it's just like, ugh, how does that guy even live with himself? I know that there's people thinking that. I get that. But there's also some of you that, a lot of you who listen to this show that are like, man, the more I listen to you, the more I gain insight into either A, how to be a man, or I've just received an amazing letter from one of our female listeners saying how she was able to get out of a bad relationship because of the training and the teaching and the philosophies and the views that are shared here, whether it's by myself, with Jesse and I, Garrett and I, the guest and I. So now you understand how it feels for me to share what I believe that has worked radically for my life, and the hundreds of dudes that have trusted me with their journey. There's a sadness in my heart for the hundreds of dudes that didn't choose to be in the journey, that are not experiencing the rewards of actually following a process that will get you to what you want. So if you've coached, you understand this sentiment. You understand this feeling. And when I heard this story, it reminded me of why I need to keep talking. It reminded me of why I need to keep sharing what I know. Not everybody's going to love it. In fact, it's actually going to sound pretty fucking horrible on some people's ears. But in other people's ears and in other people's hearts, not only are you sowing seeds of greatness in them, but you're watering them with your words and by your example, shining light onto this seed of truth that's growing in these men and women's lives. There's also that part. So I believe both. So for those of you who hate me, not hate me, but not appreciate maybe how I approach this, I get it, and I love you for that. But I also, on the other hand, will start speaking even louder, more the way I know how to talk, because of a story like this. Guy comes into our group and hadn't had sex for like 2.5 years. This is not an ugly dude. This is a good-looking dude whose business is thriving. And he'd been putting a lot of work into himself. He found us and said, all right, I'm going to submit to the process. I'm going to do exactly what you say to try and see if I can resurrect this thing. And I remember our call. I was actually here, pacing and sitting at this table when I took the call with him to find out if he would be a good fit, if I really thought we could actually help him. So I'm watching this video this morning. That must have been maybe 9 months ago, when he came into the program. This dude's wife, I'm going to have him on the podcast too, by the way. We're going to fly him down and have him share it with you. But his wife said, no, I'm just asexual. Like, I like being your friend, I like being your wife, but I'm just not into that. These are not words that any man wants to hear. These are not the words that a man who actually looks at his wife and goes, man, I want to stick my penis in you. Like, when you say you're asexual, what are you talking about? That was where they started. To where I watched this video this morning, and he says, I'm probably married game's biggest transformation. my wife, asexual, to now, I think he said for about a month now, my wife is like begging me for at least 5 orgasms a night, preferably 10. It sounds too good to be true, right? I know. If I was in that man's seat with a quote-unquote asexual wife, or like many of you have heard from your wife, I'm just not that into it. I don't think about it as much as you do, all the things. I'm sitting in that seat, I would hear a guy where his wife is begging for 5 orgasms a night before they go to bed, and she is so sexually expressed and so sexually free now to want to be with her man. And her man is a catch, like a motherfucking catch. And he followed our process to the point of saying, we're done. We're going to separate and we're going to leave. And it was at that moment when she heard the seriousness in this man's voice that she said, oh shit, I'm about ready to let the greatest guy on planet Earth go, and that's not going to fucking happen. And there was an immediate switch. Something happened within her. This is the shit I'm talking about. This guy went through hell to get this, but this is my guy. This is my fucking guy. Why? Because he will do whatever it takes to get what he wants. And there's some sort of a belief inside there at some point where a man says, I'm going to go after what I want and I'm going to fucking get it at all costs. The reason why that's my guy is because that's my mentality of how I've gone after things in my life and how I'm continuing to go after things in my life right now. And the shocking thing of all of it is I didn't think that I would be this guy to have this information and to be able to read these situations, to be able to help men figure it out. That's the funniest thing for me, is stepping into this work and doing something that I've kind of always done for my buddies, not knowing it. Not knowing that actually we've got an incredibly unique take on this thing, how we see it. And guy goes from an asexual wife to her begging him for a minimum of 5 orgasms before she goes to sleep. The guy I'm sad for, the hundreds that decided not to have us help them, if I would have remained in that rank, and I can tend to get here, I'm sure you can as well, like when you see something happen really good for somebody else, you start to immediately want to rationalize why they've got it and you don't. That's a victim mentality. That is a disease. That is a cancer. That is a growth you have to cut out. Simply just when that voice does pop up and say that, just go, actually, not true. That guy has had probably more setbacks than anybody. Congratulations to him. That's what winning looks like. And if that motherfucker can do it, I can do it. Well done. It's that simple. And you might have to say it to yourself over and over and over again, but it's that simple. So I get sad for these guys that will come up with these stories of why that will never work for me. Oh, yeah, well, okay, maybe that worked for that guy because he's such a catch, but I'm not such a catch, so it wouldn't work for me. That's why you're not getting what you want, because you're not a catch. When are you going to wake up? Like, for real. When does all the excuses finally just like sound like excuses? When? That was the question I had for myself. When am I going to wake up? When am I going to stop kidding myself? When am I actually going to put in the work for a certain amount of time, not expecting any feeling or any growth or anything, but just actually commit to doing something and becoming a better version of me, even when it's awkward? And everything that fucking started off awkward, if you hung through that phase long enough, it got to where you actually, it became fun because now you realize you conquered something. It's like surfing, man. There's so many things about surfing that are incredibly difficult. But once you do them and you endure all the getting your ass kicked in the waves to finally accomplish it, you start to have you start to feel a certain way about yourself. Here's another question maybe you've been asking. I ask it all the time, and that's, what do I really want? What am I chasing? And not even what am I chasing in per se, but what am I attracting? Like, what is so meaningful to me? And I'll tell you, I'm kind of an obsessive guy. I get into something, I really get into it. I've been that way my whole life, and I got into BMX biking. Had to be really into it. I was probably like a lot of American kids, really into sports growing up. Wanted to be a professional athlete, all the things. Then I found surfing at, I want to say I think I was 11 or 12. And it was 5th or 6th grade. Rode my first wave. Chris Pagard gave me the boogie board. And we were at Corona Del Mar. Wave was coming in off the right, and I rode it maybe 20, 30 feet. And when I rode that, I thought to myself, oh my God, I didn't know this feeling existed. That wrapped me up into bodyboarding, surfing, body surfing, just being around the waves, stand up, anything that would ride the wave, I was interested in. That's been my obsession, kind of like way of thinking. I got really into religion. Man, I got so deep into it. Wow, I got deep into it. Obsessed, man. Obsessed. And I eventually had to ask myself, like, is that obsessive guy going to pursue something in this life that he feels like he has a handle on, or are you just going to be kind of meh about it? That's probably something you've been asking yourself. I've been asking myself that constantly. I'm really dialed into married game. I'm really all in on this thing. But the more all in I go on it, the more I realize I wasn't really all in. That's kind of a mind fuck as well. The only way I can explain what I came out of was actually, I feel like I was asleep. And so as I'm recording these podcasts for you, whether you're watching on YouTube or our page, or whether you're just listening to the audio, there is a great sense of urgency that I am feeling inside of me to continue to really shake this thing up. And when I say this thing up, I'm talking about the man who either watches this or comes across these clips or somehow hears about our work and the way we're saying things. And hopefully with my vulnerability, and hopefully with the success I've had with my wife, and hopefully with the evidence of all the guys that have had so much success coming through here, we can somehow wake you out of whatever the slumber is that you're in, and you can see things how they really are. And you can go, oh shit, I'm the fucking problem. And there comes that point in every man's life. And I actually don't think it's one point. I think it's multiple points a lot of the time, and that is, hey, you said you wanted to be this thing. You're not acting like this thing. You haven't become this thing. When are you going to wake up to the reality that maybe you trying this on your own isn't fucking working? Or that just admit you don't keep your word to yourself. And now we can work from there. I've taken a pretty lax approach on some things and how I've showed up for Married Game and for the guys inside Married Game. And I came to realize that actually guys that have leadership within them crave good leadership around them and in front of them. I think the most valuable thing that a man can offer another man is an extremely high standard to aspire to. It's why guys who crush it in business, when they walk in the room and they start to talk about business, you want to listen because they literally embody the very thing that they're talking about. They embody it. And they're so stinking valuable because their standards become so high. They've achieved something. It's the same way in athletics. A guy walks in and he goes, oh, he played in the NFL, played in the NBA, or played in the Major League Baseball. If you understand sports, you understand to be able to play in any of those leagues, you have got to be an absolute savage, an incredible stud. Like, these are the best athletes walking planet Earth. But a guy that's not doing that great in any of those leagues compared to the greats in those leagues, the respect or the credibility that one would give them immediately is very, very different. Why? Because the value of the man at the top, he's placed such a high standard for us to aspire to. And we see this big old gap and we go, wow, the respect level I have for that. Even though the guys at the bottom of the league, their gap between us and like us normal human beings and these people is incredibly, incredibly far as well. But the reason why these men hold so much value, or these women in your life hold so much value, is they're living an incredibly high standard. And that's very valuable to give to somebody. That's what we want to give to people here. And yet, this general joy in me who loves to create fun also has had to have had very real conversations with myself that sound a lot like, yo, hey, buddy, you're falling asleep at the wheel again, man. You're resting into your laurels. You're taking your foot off the gas. You're letting complacency creep in. It happens to all of us. And I despise it in me, frankly. I know it's there. I'm on high vigilant watch to get rid of it, to not let it creep in. I'm sure you're possibly the same way. But I'm going to start talking a lot louder, a lot more often, in a lot more spots. Because when I hear a testimonial like the guy this morning, and then I watch this group of over 160 dudes in the group currently, I'm watching them win week after week after week. The truth is so loud that anybody trying to take away from it, it's nothing. And I say that for you. I say that so that you will say, you know what, it's time for me to wake up. Time for me to wake up. And this isn't just those of you guys not getting sex. There's a lot of guys that watch and listen to this podcast. where you're the guy that things are pretty good, but you know they could be great, and you're afraid that if you go all in on making it great, you're going to be missing out on something else. You're going to, like, if you go all in on your marriage, if you go all in on what it means to be the best version of you, if you go all in on being a great dad, a great producer, a great player within your marriage, fun to be around, planning things, romantic, all the shit. You stand in your power, meaning you do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. You become this provocateur. It frees up your time. It frees up who you are. The discipline in being this guy, it only appears like it's more effort. But that's just because you've let what you say you're going to do and what you actually do, that gap has widened for you. Where when you actually live in such a way where you do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it, and that gap is virtually neck and neck and right smack dab to each other, you become very efficient. You become highly effective and very efficient in your life. And anybody who lives that high performance life where you do what you say you're going to do, and then you actually do quite a bit, like you produce quite a bit in your life and you show it, well, that is where you start to stand in your power. And so maybe you're in this situation where your wife is just bossy and bossing you around, and frankly it's because you've given her your ball sack and you said, hey, here, why don't you go make some decisions for us? And you've given your leadership over, and you want that back. You're still having sex. Life seems pretty good, but you know there's that level where you want her to want you. You don't want her to just look at you like a kid. There's some things that you're doing that are causing you to step out of your power and give her leadership over you, which is crazy. Nobody should lead over you. You need to lead yourself. That's what your job in life is to be. Carry your own weight. Lead yourself. All right. That's what I had to say this morning. I'm going to keep shooting more of these for you guys. A, because it's fun to do. B, I think sometimes it's just fun to hear a guy talk about a topic that he knows really well and has some different angles and insights on it. If I'm listening, if I'm not the guy making this podcast, if I'm not Mr. Married Game doing this thing, I'm listening. I'm the type of guy that if something is helping me, I can't get enough of it. And there are two podcasts that do that for me. So I understand, like, I can listen to both of these individuals talk for hours about practically nothing, and I get a lot of value out of it. So for those of you who feel that way about this podcast and about listening to me talk about these topics, well, that's who I'm making this for. For those of you who are just here for the, hey, when's he going to talk about monogamy plus again? Well, who fucking knows? At any rate, much love. Keep crushing it. That shit's contagious. And you know what? If you want to see us grow, share the show. Don't be a nerd. Spread the word. And I love you. You need help, go to marriedgame.com, marriedgame.com. Watch a quick video there and book a call. Let's chat. Let's see if we can help you out. Let's ultimately see if we can wake you up and get you going where you want to go. Much love.